My parents told me there wouldn't be any secrets, but they let my sister keep a $20,000 emergency fund while I was told to pay rent or leave, so I moved out, and 2 months later I got a call from a bank asking why my name was on. I'm Maeve. I'm 27 now, living in Oregon. Grew up in a cozy suburb about 20 minutes outside of Portland, in a place called West Lynn. It's the kind of neighborhood where people remember your birthday and still drop off Christmas cookies in December. We lived in a pale yellow 2-story house with green shutters, a picket fence, and a maple tree in the front yard that turned the brightest red-orange every October. My parents, Delilah and Frank, were well liked in the community. Reliable, church-going, PTA attending, barbecue hosting kind of people. And they loved to say there were no secrets in our house. That phrase, "no secrets in this house," was repeated so often it practically echoed through the drywall. If I had a nickel for every time my dad said it, I'd probably have more in savings than I ever got from them. I have one sister, Anya, 3 years younger. And for as long as I can remember, she was the one who needed protecting. Not in an actual danger kind of way, just in the way my parents acted like the world was too rough for her, and too soft for me. When I turned 22 and graduated from Oregon State, I moved back in while job hunting. I landed a junior architectural designer job at a firm in downtown Portland within a few months, and that's when my dad brought up rent. "It's nothing personal," he said one night while slicing meatloaf at the table. "Just a way to teach responsibility." It was $600 a month. I didn't argue. I wanted to show I could be responsible. I always wanted to prove myself. So I paid. Every single month, on time. Anya, meanwhile, floated in and out of college. First at U of O, then transferring to PSU, then dropping out for a year to figure things out. She worked part-time at a boutique, had a rotating list of boyfriends, and spent more money on her nails than I did on groceries. She lived at home the whole time. No rent. No deadlines. No sit-down talks with our parents about responsibility. I swallowed it. I was taught that being the strong one meant you didn't complain. That you just handled your stuff and moved on. But over the years, resentment started curling around the edges of everything. Still, I said nothing. Then last year, everything blew up. My car broke down on I-5 during rush hour. The tow alone was over $200. The mechanic called later that day, transmission was shot. Repair cost? $2,400. I had $550 in checking, $900 in savings. That was it. So, I went to my parents. I sat them down at the kitchen table. "Can I borrow $2,000? I asked, carefully. "Just until my next bonus comes through. I'll pay you back." They looked at each other. My mom sighed. My dad folded his arms. "You know we want to help," he started, and that's when I knew the answer was no. "But we also think this is a good opportunity for you to figure things out on your own," my mom said gently, like she was offering me enlightenment instead of a rejection. I didn't argue. I thanked them, went to my room, closed the door, and cried like I hadn't since high school. A few days later, I overheard Anya talking on the phone in the hallway. She was laughing, saying something about not touching her emergency cushion. She said it was nice having $20,000 just sitting in a credit union in case she ever decided to get out of Dodge. My stomach turned. I froze. When she hung up, I asked her straight up. "What emergency cushion?" She shrugged. "The one Mom and Dad gave me. For school." For, like, peace of mind. I must have looked confused because she rolled her eyes. "Relax. It's mine. They gave it to me when I turned 20. I stormed down to the kitchen, heart pounding, and asked my parents directly. They didn't deny it. They just gave me that same look parents give when they're trying to do damage control. "It was for her mental health," my mom said. "She struggles, Maeve." "You don't think I struggle?" I snapped. "That's not what we're saying," Dad said. "You're just more resilient." Resilient. The word hit like a slap. It wasn't a compliment, it was a dismissal. A license to ignore me. That night, I packed up half my life. Told them I was moving out. My lease started in 2 weeks, but I slept on a friend's couch until then. I paid for movers myself, and left without a proper goodbye. 2 months passed. I started to breathe easier. My apartment wasn't much, an old one-bedroom near Laurelhurst Park with creaky floorboards and a broken microwave, but it was mine. I could finally walk around barefoot and not worry about who was going to criticize my spending habits or who would steal my leftovers from the fridge. I was still angry, but I was coping. Then I got the call. It was a Wednesday. I was in the office working on a 3D model for a client presentation when I saw a missed call from a Eugene area number. I figured it was spam until I got a voicemail. "Hi, this message is for Maeve Caldwell. This is Derek calling from Cascade Heritage Credit Union regarding a joint savings account under your name. We've noticed some unusual activity and need to verify some recent transactions. Please call us back at your earliest convenience." My blood ran cold. Joint savings account? I never opened an account with anyone. I called back right away. The guy, Derek, asked a few verification questions and then pulled up the account. "It's a joint savings account opened in 2019 under you and Anya Caldwell. The initial deposit was $20,000. My voice shook. "I never opened that account." "It was opened in branch," he said. "Application is signed and notarized." I drove straight to the branch that weekend. I sat down with a manager, and within an hour, they handed me a copy of the paperwork. My name. My social security number. My signature, except it wasn't mine. It was a crude copy. Anya had forged my name. She opened the account and never told me. Used my name and SSN to avoid some tax complications, probably under my parents' guidance. The account had started with $20,000 and now had about $11,000 left after multiple transfers, many of them to her boyfriend at the time. I was stunned. Betrayed doesn't even begin to cover it. I called my parents. My mom answered. "I know about the account," I said. There was a pause. "You weren't supposed to find out." That's all she said. No apology. No denial. I didn't sleep that night. After the call with my mom, after she said "you weren't supposed to find out" in that calm, almost scolding tone, like I was a child who'd peeked at Christmas gifts early, I just sat on the edge of my bed staring at the floor. I kept asking myself the same question over and over: why? Why would they lie to me about something so big? Why did my sister get a free pass with tens of thousands of dollars while I got lectures about learning responsibility and being resilient? Why was it so easy for them to pretend that we were equals? I got in my car the next morning and drove back to West Lynn without even telling them I was coming. I didn't care. I was done giving them the courtesy they never gave me. When I walked in, Anya was at the kitchen counter eating yogurt like nothing had happened. She blinked at me, surprised. "Did Mom call you?" she asked, sounding way too casual. "I spoke to the bank," I said. "I know everything." Anya stared at me, then looked back down at her yogurt. "Okay," she said. Just like that. Like it was a parking ticket. Like it was fine. That was the moment I realized how far gone she was. She really didn't think she'd done anything wrong. "You forged my name, Anya." She sighed. "Technically, Aaron filled out the paperwork. It's not like I meant to screw you over. You used my social skills. You took out money. You didn't even tell me the account existed." She looked uncomfortable then, but still more annoyed than guilty. "Look, Mom and Dad said it was just a tax thing. You were supposed to be taken off the account a year ago, but I forgot, okay? It's not like you lost money. I could have been arrested for fraud." She rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic." That was it. That one sentence snapped something inside me. I turned to my mom, who had been standing silently in the doorway for most of this exchange. My dad had just walked in from the garage. "You knew. You both knew about this. You signed off on it." My dad looked at me like I was shouting in a library. "Maeve, calm down. This is a misunderstanding." "No," I said. "This is identity theft." "I don't think it's that serious," my mom said. "It was a family account. It wasn't like a stranger did it. We were just trying to help Anya feel secure. You put my name on a bank account without telling me. You used my social security number. She stole my identity. That's a felony." Now they started to look nervous. "Maeve, let's talk about this. We don't need to involve lawyers or anything like that. That's when I knew they were scared, not of what had happened, but of what might happen next. I left without another word. I drove home shaking. I felt like I was outside my body. Like I had just seen a version of my parents I wasn't ready to believe was real. Over the next week, I met with a lawyer. He was blunt: "This is a clean case of identity theft, even if it happened within a family. You'd be well within your rights to file a police report." He also warned me, "They'll say it's not a big deal. They'll try to guilt you. But it is a big deal. If you defaulted on something under your name, it would have affected your credit, your career, everything." So I filed the report. That night, my dad called me. I didn't pick up. Then my mom. Then Anya. A few hours later, I got a long text from my mom. It was one of those classic Delilah messages, flowery language trying to disguise guilt as grief. "I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But please think about what this will do to your sister. She was struggling. She didn't know what she was doing. We thought we were doing what was best. We never wanted to hurt you. They never wanted to hurt me. But they did." Repeatedly. I didn't answer her. I forwarded the message to my lawyer instead. The bank froze the account. All transactions halted. They opened an internal fraud investigation. It turned out Anya had tried to wire herself the remaining money 3 days before I called the branch. Had I waited just a little longer, that money would have been gone. The restitution process started soon after. My lawyer handled most of it, but I had to give several statements. I had to hand over copies of my ID, signatures, emails, everything that proved I hadn't consented to any of it. It was exhausting, humiliating, and infuriating. But the worst part? I still kept hoping they'd apologize. That someone, anyone, in my family would call and say, "Maeve, I'm sorry. We messed up. You didn't deserve this." It never came. Instead, I heard through a mutual family friend that my parents were telling people I had overreacted and gone nuclear over a misunderstanding. Anya, apparently, told her friend group that I was jealous and always wanted to tear her down. No one, not a single one of them, asked why I had to get lawyers involved. They just told a story that made them the victims and me the villain. I kept my head down during the legal process. I started therapy. I stopped going to the family church. I even blocked a few extended relatives on social media because they kept messaging me things like, "Maybe don't destroy your family over money." It wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about trust. The choices. The lies. It was about the fact that I spent my whole life being the good daughter, the one who paid rent, followed the rules, kept her head down, and in the end, that didn't matter. Because when Anya wanted something, the rules changed. After I filed the police report, the atmosphere around me shifted in ways I couldn't fully articulate at the time. Everything felt quieter. Not peaceful quiet, tense quiet, like the pause in the air right before a thunderstorm splits the sky. The kind of quiet that makes your skin buzz. For the first few days, nothing happened. I went to work. I made myself dinners I barely touched. I didn't hear from Anya or my parents. The silence almost made me second-guess myself. Maybe I overreacted, I thought. Maybe it really was just a misunderstanding. But every time I opened my banking app or saw a credit alert email, that familiar surge of anxiety shot through me. I knew that if I'd done nothing, if I'd just let this go, they'd do it again. Maybe not the same way, maybe not as blatantly, but the pattern was there. It always has been. I was expected to handle things, to carry the weight, while Anya was expected only to feel things. That weekend, I got a letter from the credit union confirming that the joint account had officially been flagged as a fraud case. They'd completed their internal audit. The transactions had clearly come from Anya's devices, IP addresses, and phone number. The forged signature didn't even remotely match mine. In a strange way, the paperwork made me feel sane again. Like finally, someone outside the four walls of my childhood home had looked at this and said, "No, Maeve, you're not imagining this. This is real, and it's wrong." A few days later, I received a letter from a lawyer representing Anya. A preemptive move, apparently. They were exploring options to settle the matter privately, without escalation. I forwarded it to my own lawyer without responding. Not 2 hours after that, I got a call from my dad. "Maeve," he said, tone clipped. We didn't know she put your name on the account. We only knew about the money and that it was in a credit union. She lied to us, too. I stayed silent. She's your sister, he added. No, I said. She's a grown woman who committed identity theft. And you both let her. He sighed heavily, like I was being unreasonable. We can make this right, he said. We'll pay you what she owes. We don't need to involve the courts. You're 2 months too late for that, I told him. I'm done pretending this is normal. He hung up. What came next was the part one didn't expect, the emotional whiplash of trying to live a normal life while my entire understanding of family crumbled beneath me. At work, I was managing bigger projects, and even got a promotion. But I'd catch myself zoning out during client calls or crying in the bathroom on my lunch break. It wasn't even about the money anymore. It was the gaslighting, the betrayal, the way my parents looked at me like I was the problem for not just taking it. A few weeks later, my lawyer called. She's willing to settle, he said. We've drafted a restitution agreement. Any apology? I asked, not really expecting one. She had her attorney send a personal statement, he said. I'll forward it. When I opened the document, I stared at the screen for a long time. Anya's apology was 4 sentences long. It said she regretted the inconvenience and didn't mean for things to go this far. She wrote, I only did what I thought was best for my situation at the time, and ended with, I hope we can move past this eventually. No mention of my name. No responsibility taken. Not even an acknowledgement of how much damage she'd caused. I didn't respond. I signed the agreement. She was ordered to pay me just under $9,000 after legal fees and adjustments. I didn't get all of it back, but it wasn't about the total anymore. It was about having a legal record of what happened. Proof that I hadn't just made it up. That this wasn't one of those family drama stories you shrug off and sweep under the rug. The real blow came when I heard from my Aunt Mel, my mom's sister. She called me one afternoon out of the blue. I heard about what happened, she said cautiously. I braced myself. Your mom's not doing well, she added. She feels like she lost a daughter. I let out a dry laugh. She lost a daughter? I asked. Or she just doesn't like the one that stopped playing along? She's grieving, Maeve. Maybe if you two could just sit down. I filed a police report. This isn't about feelings. This is about fraud. She was quiet on the other end, then finally said, I believe you. I do. But this family's never been good at admitting when we're wrong. And that was it. That line stuck with me. This family's never been good at admitting when we're wrong. No kidding. Eventually, the money came through. I put it into my own savings account, one with 2-factor authentication, fraud alerts, and nobody else's name on it but mine. By then, I'd blocked Anya's number. She emailed me once to say she wanted to start over. I never responded. My parents emailed a joint letter around the holidays. A long, guilt-soaked essay about how families go through storms and healing comes from forgiveness. There was a PS at the bottom that said, we still have your room ready if you ever want to come home. That sentence made me feel nauseous. Home. The place where I was told to pay rent while my sister got 20 grand. The place where I was told I was stronger so I didn't need help. The place where I learned that being reliable just meant being taken for granted. I didn't answer their letter. Instead, I lit a candle that night, poured myself a glass of wine, and watched the snow fall outside my window in the city I now lived in. Alone. Safe. But not done. There's still more to tell. Like what my mom did next, what she sent me in the mail that nearly broke me all over again. Or how Anya's restitution payments almost stopped after she lost her job and begged the court for a modification. And how I found out, by accident, that this wasn't the first time something like this had happened in my family. If you've stuck with me this far, I appreciate it more than you know. Writing this out helps me feel grounded. Helps me stay clear on what's real. A few months after the restitution agreement was finalized, things were quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like a curtain has been drawn over something messy and unresolved, not like peace. I was still in therapy, trying to figure out what I needed to feel whole again, and I kept circling back to the same thought, this can't be the end. They got away with too much. A stolen identity, a betrayal that spanned years, and the audacity to act like I was the one breaking up the family. Then came the letter. It arrived in a pale blue envelope, addressed to me in my mother's handwriting, and postmarked from a different city, Ashland. I almost didn't open it. Part of me wanted to just toss it in the trash, unread, like everything else they'd ever given me, unasked for burdens, unsolicited guilt. But I opened it. Inside was a single-page letter, written like a journal entry. Maeve, I know I've hurt you. But you have to understand, I didn't know what else to do. Your father and I made choices that made sense at the time. Anya needed us more. She's not strong like you. We never thought it would come to this. You're my firstborn. I always thought you'd be the one to hold everything together. But maybe we asked too much of you. I wish I knew how to fix it now. We're selling the house. We can't keep up with the payments since your dad took early retirement and the legal costs started piling up. Your sister is moving in with friends in Seattle. She's angry, too. But I think she misses you, even if she'd never say it. If you want anything from the house, your old journals, your artwork from college, it's boxed in the garage. Let me know. Love, Mom. For the first time, I felt something I hadn't expected, a strange kind of pity. Not forgiveness, not even empathy, just the recognition that they'd finally started to feel the consequences of everything they'd done. They were unraveling. And maybe, just maybe, I had some power left. That's when I decided to do something I'd been thinking about for months but hadn't acted on yet. Back when I had started digging into the joint account fraud, I'd also done a full credit check and identity review. I wanted to make sure nothing else was hiding in my financial background. That's when I discovered something strange. A second account, an investment account opened when I was 17, with my name and my dad's name on it. It had been opened at a local bank in West Lynn, but it had sat dormant for years. There were only a few $100s in it, but it had my social status. My lawyer helped me dig further. Turns out, it had originally been set up as a UTMA, Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, custodial account, meant to transfer to me when I turned 21. Except it never did. Because it had been used briefly, years ago, by my dad. A few small withdrawals, all logged in early 2017. A few deposits, but then, nothing. I printed the records and brought them to my lawyer. He raised an eyebrow and said, "Do you want to pursue this too?" "No," I said. "Not legally. I wanted something else." I spent the next 2 weeks quietly gathering everything I had: emails, the credit report, screenshots of transactions, copies of the restitution agreement, even the forged signature from the bank account. I made a neat, chronological PDF. A digital dossier. And then I submitted it, anonymously, to the alumni board at the church my parents had belonged to for 25 years. The same church where my dad had served as a financial volunteer, managing accounts and event budgets. The same church that had quietly funded some of Anya's overseas volunteer trips when she was younger, under the premise that she was going to help women in need in developing countries. She had gone to Ibiza. Twice. The board launched an internal review. I don't know the exact conversations that happened, but about 3 weeks later, my dad's name disappeared from their community bulletin. A friend who still attended told me he'd resigned his volunteer position. That was step 1. Step 2 came when I got in touch with the boutique Anya used to work for. The owner, a lovely woman named Farah, had always liked me when I visited and once mentioned that she thought I was the responsible sister. I let her know, off the record, that Anya had a record now, and had been involved in a fraud case involving multiple wire transfers. Just, in case she ever reapplied there. And step 3? I bought the domain name caldwellfamilytrust.org. Just a simple, locked private webpage with a password-protected folder that stored all the documents and proof I'd collected. I didn't share it with anyone. I didn't publish it publicly. But I let them know it existed. I emailed my parents, copying Anya, with a short message: "I've chosen not to press additional charges. But if anything else ever shows up under my name, or if my information is used again without consent, this record will be made public and forwarded to all relevant institutions, including employers, community organizations, and applicable authorities." I've learned that protecting myself means not trusting blindly anymore. You've all shown me who you are. Please don't contact me again unless it's through legal channels. They didn't reply. Months went by. I started to feel free. Not because I got revenge, but because I reclaimed the narrative. For years, I'd played the quiet daughter. The reliable one. The one who never made trouble. But they didn't see that as strength, they saw it as an invitation to use me. So I rewrote the rules. One more thing happened, and I'll end with this. Last fall, I was contacted by a publishing rep through a friend of a friend who had read an anonymous blog post I'd written, based on my experience. She asked if I'd be interested in expanding the story. A memoir, maybe. Something about financial abuse within families. Identity. How people don't talk about the way your own blood can rob you blind and still expect a thank you note. We're still in talks. It won't make me rich. But it'll make something meaningful out of everything I lost. And that's the best kind of revenge, turning pain into power. I don't need them to understand anymore. I just need to keep living in a world where my name is mine, my money is mine, and my life, finally, is mine.